So a lot of people are interested in how to get rid of the catalytic converter from the bottom end of the exhaust on a Suzuki B-King, and I guess it'll be quite similar to a Hayabusa as well. So I'm getting rid of that part over there which contains the catalytic converter and replacing it with that unit. It's a Dominator R catalytic eliminator pipe. In order to get the headers off, it's quite easy. First you have to get rid of the belly pan, and then there are 3 fasteners that you have to mainly focus on. So this one here, which bolts onto the tab that connects to the catalytic converter. Over there there'll be a bolt over there that connects to the undertail part of the exhaust that runs out to the back, and then of course the main header bolts. To get to the header bolts, what I did was I first had to take out the oil cooler because it was in the way of me pivoting the headers, and I undid the 2 bolts up top so I can pivot the radiator back with the hoses still connected, and I removed the fans. I'm not sure if I have to take this out later because I'm not sure if I can get my torque wrench in there with this in the way. So getting started, first thing we need to do to get that replacement pipe onto here is cut along this weld bead over here, and then this part of the pipe will clamp onto the end of here. So I got myself a hacksaw with a metal cutting blade, and I'm going to start the cut all the way through here. So the metal cutting blade made quick work of that, and I got the catalytic converter in my hand. What's interesting to note is that this weighs about twice as much as the rest of the header. So not only are you going to increase the airflow, but you're going to, cut down on a significant chunk of weight. So the reason you would get rid of this is, I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's the catalytic converter in there, and that's going to restrict some of the airflow you have, robbing you of top end power. So where I live in New Zealand, there are no emission laws really, so I can get away with that, but just check where you live to see what kind of emissions you have to abide by. So now that the catalytic converter is gone, I can get my Dominator R exhaust, and a bit tricky doing this with one hand. Give me a second. Okay, now you can see that with the Dominator R pipe installed, it takes place of the catalytic converter. So now I should have a freer flowing exhaust. So now it's time to install it back on the bike. I'm gonna try to slide it into the back first and then work with the headers before I crank down on this clamp to tighten everything up. So this pipe also does come with the nut you need for your O2 sensor. And a quick trick I did is using some bathroom toilet cleaner polishes up these pipes quite nicely, and then I just used some green scuffing pad along with it. Now if you just use the scuffing pad on its own, it will shine it up, but you won't get rid of the black corrosion pits with which the toilet cleaner gets rid of quite nicely, and you don't need to scrub as hard. And while the exhaust is off the bike, you might as well put the extra time to get that done. And then I went afterwards with some autosol to polish that up nicely. Okay, now I'll get this installed back in the bike and show how it sits in there. Okay, so I managed to slip it back into place. It was easier first to align the back pipe up, and then I kind of just tilted the headers into place. For all the flanges and the header bolts, I used copper grease. So you just get your bolt and then just coat the threads and then screw it in. The copper grease can handle the temperatures of the exhaust, and this ensures that these bolts don't seize themselves onto the threads. So if next time you have to take the exhausts off, it'll be easier, and if not, the next person working on it will have an easier time getting the exhaust back off. So I'll just do these last two bolts, and then I'll probably move on to putting the oil cooler back on. Okay, I've got the oil cooler back in place, so everything pretty much is ready to go. I will now start torquing down all the bolts to factory spec, starting from the header bolts over here, moving down to the oil cooler bolts, and then this bracket bolt over there, and finally you can see it right there, yeah, down there, the rear clamping bolt. After that is done, you're pretty much ready to go. Because I took the radiator fans out, hopefully I'll have enough space there to get my torque wrench in. After everything's tightened down, I'll put the radiator fans back on, which I have down there. Bolt back the radiator and the oil cooler. Then I'll put the belly fans, belly pan, and the side fairings, and I should be ready to go. And then I'll make sure to also put your O2 sensor. So after everything's bolted back on, I'll start it up and see how it sounds. The bike for a couple of weeks now with the Decat, and I have noticed that the bike isn't idling properly. It'll hunt for the RPM at idle, but once you get going and the RPMs go above idle, everything seems alright. I just went for a long ride today. Since I've installed a wideband O2, I can get some data just to see how the Decat system has affected the fuel ratios. So just went for a long ride today, so let's stop recording and retrieve the data. Yeah, so you can see for the most part there are areas where it is running quite lean. Actually, yeah, most of the data is quite lean. So yeah, that's one thing you might want to do is after you get remove the Decat, you might want to go get a tune on it. Just get the air fuel ratio correct. But other than that, I have noticed that there are some there's a slight power increase with the Decat system, so it's still worth doing it.